Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Elvis Diner. We're going to wait for some folks to join in and then we'll get started. Hopefully, everybody's having a great day, regardless if you're watching it live or on replay. Got a couple things that we're going to talk about, and hopefully, you guys can throw in some opinions and start the conversation. All right, looks like we already got some folks waiting, so I guess we'll get started. So, this is episode 14 of the Elvis Diner. I think the last time we had one was a couple months ago. So, we figured today, being the 50th anniversary of Elvis's shows in Huntsville, Alabama, we would come on here, do a live, and you know, just get back on the scene and talk to you guys. And if you have any questions or anything, we can talk about that.
Sounds good.
Let me get on here, make sure everything's working. All right. Hope to see you both in August for Elvis Week. Yeah, we're hoping that we'll be able to make it down there. We're looking at our schedules and everything for work, and we're going to see if we can do that. We're really hoping that we can get down there, see you guys, but we're not going to know for a couple more weeks because we're looking at our schedules. But hopefully we can make it down there and see you guys.
Hey, there's Patty from Ireland. Hey, Patty, good to see you.
Yeah, we always see you join on here. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us on a Sunday night before we go back to work and everything. So thank you for taking time out.
Somebody was asking, how in the world did we find everyone for these Huntsville interviews? It was pretty much just like we'd interview one person. They're like, hey, I have somebody that can interview, but a lot of it fell with Benny Jacks, our friend in Huntsville.
Yeah, we have a great dear friend in Huntsville, and we started talking to her and, told her what we wanted to do. We had been down there before, and she kind of connected us up with some folks and, asked us if we would, consider interviewing them. And I said, yeah, bring them on. And basically the morning of, we were at the hotel, we were still getting calls about people that wanted to come and be a part of it. So I tell you, Huntsville, we'll get into this here in a little bit, but Huntsville is if you followed Elvis enough, as far as Elvis, being out on tour, that's probably out of all the cities we've been to, that is probably one of the most special.
Mm-hmm.
The connection there is just, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's almost like a living thing, really.
Yeah.
It's just it's the way he connected with that city and its people,
mm-hmm.
and the way the people there connected with him is unlike. I mean, we've interviewed a lot of people in a lot of different cities
mm-hmm.
and so forth, but and there was something special about Huntsville, and still is. I tell you, what a beautiful place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I saw on Facebook, I think it was yesterday, a bunch of people that were at those shows, went back there and, got lunch. And I think Benny Jackson, Jenny Carpenter were some of them. They just, met and everything and reminisced about the shows. I mean, it's crazy. Like when you go to Huntsville, it's very easy to run into somebody like, oh yeah, I went there with my mom, for the 75 show.
Right.
There's a lot of people down there that have lived there their whole lives.
Yeah.
And a lot of them went to that show. Cause I mean, if you look at the history of that building, that was like right when it opened. He was, he was there right when it opened. And so he was, I think, the first solo performer there. And so that was a big deal. And especially because he went there 5 times.
Yeah.
In 1975 and then came back twice in 76.
Yeah.
And that was the last double concert in a day.
Yeah. And, just, and not to take away anything from any other city. We've been to some phenomenal cities, and we've talked to people that work for Elvis, and I've actually asked, about some of these cities, like, which ones did he really enjoy going to? And I know that when we were talking to a couple of the guys, Virginia came up. He loved coming to Virginia. And if you look at his, the tour sheets and his itineraries and stuff, Virginia pops up a lot. and he loved Virginia. You know, he loved. You know, obviously he's going to love, you know, down in Alabama, Texas, and place like that, because that's where that was his wheelhouse. I mean, that's where he spent a lot of the time back in the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the car with the guys, and just going up and down the road down there. So yeah, it's there's a lot of cities that he was very affectionate about.
Yeah. Somebody was asking, we are only live on YouTube right now. Sometimes, I think we've done it once or twice, we'll try to go live on multiple platforms. But it is kind of a process trying to get that all together. But we are only live on YouTube right now. And then after we're done today, we're going to post it on our channel so you can watch it back. Because there's people that email us overseas that are like, you know, it's 1 o'clock where I am when you guys start, but they watch it the next day. So loved your Fayetteville video. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. Yeah, there was something special about the Huntsville videos or the Huntsville shows.
There's Bruce. Hey, Bruce. It's good to see you on here, man. Yeah.
Agreed.
Ain't it? What's he say there? Ain't it funny how time slips away? That's a fact there.
Photos taken during Huntsville shows were some of the best. I completely agree. I mean, I was down here getting everything set up today, and a good portion of the photos that cover this wall were taken in Huntsville. I mean, that's probably the majority of the photos in this.
You know, and the cool thing about it, when we did the day there with everybody, when we did it with Keith and Bruce and Marcia and George and all those folks, if you go back and look at our, we highly recommend that you go back and look at our Huntsville video that we did, where it was with those particular people. Bruce actually talks about, Keith actually talks about why those pictures turned out so good. It was the lighting issue.
Yeah, I think we got like 9 or 10 photos in here from Huntsville. What my favorite, if you went back on our Instagram where it was, where were we? It was early in May, and it was the anniversary of when we were down there last year, and it was a bunch of pictures of us last year down there in Huntsville with Keith and George and Bruce and Marcia and all them. I think it was like the last photo in that post. I talk about my all-time favorite photo was taken by George there, and it was actually taken today in the Silver Phoenix when he was smiling, like looking down with the microphone. That's my favorite picture. That was taken today, which I thought was really cool.
My absolute favorite, I should say my favorite because I don't want to slight anybody, but a couple of my favorite things was about that trip was one, spending time with Marcia, talking about that scarf, that interaction, and talking about the light up toy, you know, the thing that she had to give to Elvis, and he's up there fooling with it, trying to figure out how to work it and everything. That was a cool story because it was an interaction there. There were words exchanged, you know, things were said there, and that was cool. And then I really like sitting up in the stands with Bruce, talking about where he filmed that footage from, and hearing his perspective on that. Because, you know, you hear a photographer's perspective about, you know, all the shots that they take and everything, but just think you're sitting there with 8mm and you're filming. This is a motion picture that you're filming. And that was cool hearing that story.
Yeah, I mean, when we were there last year, that was, when you think about it, that was the most like complete story that we had ever done, really, because you had the person who had the interaction with Elvis, you had the person who took the video because that interaction was on video. The person, Marcia, who was, you know, had the interaction, brought the scarf and the button and the light, and she was standing in the spot that it happened, and it was in the building. Like everything was just full circle, and I feel like that was the most complete, you know, story interview that we had done.
She let me hold that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't hold the scarf because it's in a frame, but
Yeah.
the thing that she gave him, I thought was really cool, or attempted to give him, because she still got it. So,
and it's funny because we were there with George, and, you know, most people don't know that George Hill, Keith, and Marcia were all within, you know, maybe the first 10 rows for that afternoon May 31st show when he wore the chief or the feather suit. They didn't know each other.
Right.
All three of them didn't know each other. and George was the one that took the photo of Marcia with the scarf interaction. If you guys haven't seen those photos, if you look up the May 31st show, he had an orange scarf, and Marcia was, he was like kind of on his knees, and they were talking and everything. And it was funny because George took those photos,
Mm-hmm.
and then Keith married Marcia, and then later on they all three became friends, not knowing after the fact. So it's cool how all that stuff works out, especially in the Elvis world, and how they were all there,
Yeah.
during those shows.
Simply amazing.
So, but I mean that you can't really see it, but the photo behind me, if you've seen in our other lives, the photo that's behind me was from that show, and that was one of Keith's photos, and that's one of my favorite photos that Keith took. And I think there's one. I think there's one of him with the guitar from that show that hangs at Marlowe's in like the Elvis booth or
Mm-hmm.
Keith's booth.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all really good,
Yeah.
shots. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Marcia's story, go back to our Huntsville video. We actually have a few, but it's the one where we're talking with Marcia, George, and Keith. It's not the one that's specific with Keith Alverson. It's, I think, the second video after that. So that's the one that's got everybody else talking. The first video we did in Huntsville was solely with Keith, and then the second one was with everybody else.
And then we did the sessions. We contemplated, how do we do this? And since we kind of knew that he was going to be in a new career situation, we thought, probably be best to shelf these things. And then, once he started the training academy for the fire department, we'd start dumping them out, because we knew we had to buy some time. And I'm going to tell you, as any of you guys that know us know, how much we love being on the road. This is absolutely, just so you know, this is absolutely, I'm surprised we're not insane by now, because we have always been out on the road doing this. I mean, for years we've been doing this. I've been doing it a long time, and we've been doing it together for a long time, almost 10 years now. We've been out there doing this. Well, longer than that, because you were little, so like 15 years. 20 maybe. But yeah, 20. So it's just driving us nuts that we're not out there, but it's something that we do not have any control over. He's got to get through this training, and I can't put the pressure on him to, try to force something in there. I mean, we couldn't do it if we wanted to, because, it takes a lot to get into these buildings. It takes a lot to set these trips up. So it would just be forcing it. And you guys know us, if we're not going to do it right, we don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really miss being out on the road. Like, I like going, as silly as it sounds, like I like going to the airport, sitting around, getting on the plane, flying. I love flying, and just going to different places. But we're hoping that, as the summer goes on, we'll be able to do a trip here or there. So we're just going to have to see how the schedule plays out, kind of towards end of June. And then we'll be able to kind of figure out where we're going from there.
But we'll be back out there. And when we get back out there this next time, we should be able to stay out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we still have a couple videos, waiting, not relating to Huntsville, but we still have a couple interviews.
Yeah. We actually talked about doing some fun stuff. Like, we've talked about it for quite a while, that I'd like to start coming on here every now and then, telling you guys some of the funny stories that we've run into out there on the road that are, they're Elvis related, but they're related to our time on the road. And we thought you guys would just find it fun to, not bore you with 10 or 12 stories at a time, but just throw one out there from time to time. Like, what's west of Kansas City, when you're on the interstate. And the answer to that is nothing. So
pretty much.
We left Kansas City one evening and had to get to Lincoln, Nebraska before they tore down the Pershing auditorium. And we kind of thought that, when you leave a big city like that, you run into some stuff along the way.
Yeah.
Not the fact with Kansas City. You
Yeah,
leave Kansas City going west, you're on your own.
Yeah, because we were just planning on, kind of like on the fly, just there'll be like a town up there that we can just go into a hotel or something it started to get to like 8, 9, 10, 11
Yeah.
o'clock at night, and we hadn't seen anything.
Yeah.
So we just
Not even a cow or anything. I mean, nothing.
no. So we
Chickens
at a certain point we were just like, we're gonna just go all the way to Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's where we ended up staying.
And the funny thing about it is we don't do. He will tell you. I set the entire trip up prior to us going. What we used to do, like when we did Texas, we did 10 or 12 cities. I think we did like, was it like 2,000 miles or something on that trip?
Probably.
And we were out there for like, I think it was like 12 or 13 days, because we covered every city that he hit in Texas, except for San Antonio. And that was a long time out there, but everything was booked in advance. So we always do that. And the only time that we didn't do that was when we went to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, because like the way that the trip worked out and our tours were set up time wise, it was like we weren't able to be like, all right, we'll be able to stay here, or, head to the next. Like time wise, we weren't sure like when all that was going to play into effect, and then that's when we were just like, we're just going to head all the way to Lincoln, Nebraska. And that's not the first time in that situation because when we went to Huntsville, I think it was like 8 years ago or whatever, because we were down in Mississippi and Louisiana and all that stuff. We were in Huntsville and we were leaving to come home, and we were driving, and we're like, oh, we'll just go halfway. And then we ended up just driving the full 10, 11 hours and didn't get home until like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So, yeah. Somebody was asking if we are excited for Baz Luhrmann's Elvis footage project.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm excited for whatever comes out. I haven't really, if somebody wants to put in like the details for he's going to put out, because I always see a lot of posts about that stuff, and it's really hard to narrow down like what's actually happening.
I'm confused. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of get confused, because then you go to these posts where you're like, oh, here's an explanation. And then the paragraph's like this long on Instagram, and it's like, I don't know what I'm reading. So if somebody wants to give me like give us a couple bullet points of what he's putting out there, that'd be appreciated, because
we've probably looked at 98% of the live footage of Elvis, performing the 8mm stuff, the bootleg stuff, the real stuff, the CBS stuff, the MGM stuff, Elvis on tour, the whole 9 yards. And what I've seen like on these posts, and you guys chime in on this, but it's when you see these posts, they show these clips, here it is, this is what's coming out. And they're showing a clip of something that's out right now, that's in the movie. That's the way it is, or it's stuff that's out there. So I don't understand what's going on, but again, I'm not going to bash until we have a reason to, because if he comes out with stuff that's been in film cans for 50 years and it's all polished stuff, I thank goodness for that, because we've been waiting.
Yeah, I'm grateful that there's actually somebody that wants to actually take that initiative.
I am too. I would like to see something. I tell you, I'm just being honest here. I know what a teaser is, like, hey, coming up in the next hour. I get that, and I know why you do that, to get somebody to hang on. But we're getting teaser after teaser after teaser after teaser, and it's like, just put the thing out.
Yeah, just because I thought it was, after the movie came out and he made the announcement, he's like, yeah, I have access to the footage. I was under the impression that he only had the 1972 April footage. And then there's stuff that's starting to come out from That's the Way It Is. And then I was like, all right, well, which one are we focusing on? Are we doing That's the Way It Is? Or are we doing Elvis on Tour? Because nobody's like, past couple of years, nobody really was focusing on That's the Way It Is, even though we know it's out there, because it's not like they filmed one song from those concerts. They filmed all the shows, because it says at the beginning of That's the Way It Is, concerts were filmed over 6 shows. But everyone was focusing on Elvis on Tour because there were so many cities that were part of that thing. So it's like, where's our focus now? Again, I'm not criticizing anything. I get what you're saying. We're kind of going in circles, and it's like, are we focusing on Elvis That's the Way It Is, or Elvis on Tour? But either way, I mean, if new footage comes out, and that's great.
Well, I think it is, because I mean, why would you? It's going to look pretty silly if you're hyping this thing up and then all you do is re-release what's already out there. So I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah.
it's got to be some. And from what I've heard, there were, it's like that. If this is true, but it's like this. It's like can after can after can after can of film that, and I can't imagine. It's in a salt mine, so that's why they put it down there so it's protected. But I don't know. We'll just put the thing out. That's all I'm saying. Just put it out and let's take a look.
Yeah, honestly. And I mean, from our perspective and doing what we do, I'm excited to see, like when he releases the 72 footage, these cities that we've been to, for example, Hampton Coliseum, it's like, was there backstage, is there footage of him backstage or walking to the stage? Because there's those scenes where it's that 3 screen and it's Greensboro, San Antonio, and Little Rock. Well, what other do they have Richmond, him backstage, like walking up to the stage? That'll be cool for us because we've been in those hallways.
Yeah.
And we've, seen the dressing rooms and, everything inside those buildings. So it's going to be really cool to see like what we've been to and have footage of.
And us being the technical tour geeks where you look for this weird stuff that really wouldn't matter to anybody other than us. Elvis probably 98% of the time came up on the left-hand side of the stage behind the stamps, came up that way. But there are many instances, there are some instances where he came up on the opposite side. And we know that Hampton is one of those because he comes out, and after we went to Hampton, we found out why that he came up on that side. Augusta, Maine was another one, because if he would have had to go around, some obstacles there that were just pointless to go around. So they brought him up on the opposite side over, on Charlie Hodge side. So,
I mean, it'll be there might be an answer to this one, but it'd be interesting to see what side he came up on Greensboro, because if you think about it, that footage of him backstage was flipped. And when they come up, they come on Glenn Hardin's corner of the stage. And so it'll be interesting to see, did he go up that side of the stage, or did he go up the center, or did he just walk around the back? Because if you've seen that clip where he goes through that little curtain out the stairs, he's already out. Like everyone can see him by that point. It was a walk to the stage. So it's like, did he just walk along the backside and then go up the stairs, or did he go up?
That's what I think happened there, because when you see him go up those 5-6 stairs there, and then he makes that turn.
And then he had to walk to the stage.
Right. Well, that's what he did in Huntsville too. Is he went behind the stage for a period of time, then popped up over on the
thing is though, in Huntsville there was those curtains, but in Greensboro it doesn't look like there was any curtains.
You would be very surprised at where that so many curtains were used at these shows, as they are now. But like in Elvis's case, there were places like Rapid City is one of them. Those people, when CBS was filming him backstage there, where he says his prayer before he goes up on the stage, there were literally people, because we were there. We stood right there where that photo, where all that footage was taken, and there were like people just like right around the corner and didn't even know it. So that would have been cool.
Yeah, it'll be really cool to see what footage, like the backstage stuff and how he got to the stage and everything. And I'm interested to see. Last thing I'll say about the Baz Luhrmann stuff, it'll be interesting to see when he releases it, how he's going to release it. Is it going to be on a streaming platform? And if it is it going to be like episode 1 is, this city, or like, I'm interested to see how he's going to release that. So we're just going to have to wait for a definite answer. I'm just hopefully that there's not that many more teasers and it just, gets released, whether that's the way it is or Elvis on tour.
It'd be nice if it's like an overall where they capture like a bunch of the unreleased stuff. But then what I would really love is release, but I don't think this is going to happen because I think the cost would be too much. But if they could release each individual city on a DVD for people to purchase, and like us nutcases that want to look at all this stuff, man, I would buy that in a minute, as long as it's not crazy.
Even then, I feel like
8 DVD set for $900 or something.
And I do hope, which I mean, I don't know how we would know this, but I feel like what ends up getting released is like everything. Like in reality, it's like Hampton Coliseum. This is everything. 100% of the footage. What's out is out. There's nothing that we're still holding in the back room. So we're just gonna have to see.
Yeah, Bruce makes a good point. There's a lot of fake stuff out there being said about this project. So yeah, and he's right. And I like what he said there. Let's hold everything until we hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so if you guys had any questions, feel free to chime in here. We just wanted to come on and, touch base with you guys and just let you know that we're still here and we got a couple more videos, but we're done with the Huntsville sessions. We've done everything from Huntsville. And then we've got a couple other locations, and then a couple more interviews that we got to post, but we're going to try to space those out. We're going to take, a couple weeks, let the Huntsville session videos, because we don't want to post everything too close together. So we just wanted to finish the Huntsville session videos during the anniversary of the Huntsville shows. So then we're going to go back in a little bit and do the rest of the videos that we have. And then hopefully by then, when we're out of material, we'll be going someplace.
We'll be back on the road.
Yeah, we'll be back on the road.
Talk a little bit about the what we do have coming up. I know we got the pet shop.
Yeah, we got an interview on a lady who, we don't want to give too much away, but the lady that took the photos of Elvis at Southland Mall in Memphis when there's photos of him in the back,
Kilgore's Pet Shop.
Kilgore's Pet Shop in the back when he was getting out of his car. We got the lady who took those photos.
That'll be that's going to be a fun story. I think everybody will like that because we were on the line with her for quite a while talking about that, and she just had a great story. She was going to college down there and hung out a lot, you know, around. There was a group of them that hung out a lot there at the gates and stuff, and they would see him quite a bit.
Yeah, and it is a really interesting story. I mean, I had never, like, in my head, I was like, before that, I didn't think there was a story to go with that. I thought it was just somebody that took photos, but there's a whole story to it. So it'll be interesting. We got one more city that we went to with George, Keith, Marsha, and Bruce that we've had for a while, but just how everything's played out, we have been holding that one, so that'll be coming out. And then it's going to be like a mini video. I went to a city that nobody's really done much material on because the building's no longer there, but I went to the hotel, which there's photos of him there. So that'll come out eventually. Like I said, it'll be, 3-4 minutes, but nobody's done anything on it. So that'll be cool. I've been there a couple of times, but I like going there because of the history there. And then I think we got one more video. I just can't think of what it is. But yeah, so we got a handful of videos still, in the works, and we're going to try to space them out a little bit, but we're going to get those to you guys when we can. Did you guys ever do a video on the Hartford Civic Center? We haven't done a video on it, but we've been there, I think.
I'm trying to think which one was New Haven was torn down. Hartford. Yeah, we've been to Hartford. Yeah, because remember we got we have.
Yeah, and people ask us all the time, like if we've done a video on a city. We've been, with the exceptions of ones that have been torn down, obviously, we've been to every building east of Vegas, with the exception, I don't know if Reno is, anyway, but like East Coast, Midwest, North, South, we've been to all of them.
Right.
But there's a lot of venues that we go to where the Elvis history in that building was literally him just, flying in, going to the building, doing the show, and leaving. He might have just done one show there.
Well, especially, like I was getting ready to say, a one and done. And and especially if it's a building that has just been totally gutted out and there's just nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these venues that we go to, it's just, he just did a performance there. And that's a case with a lot of his like 76, 77 shows where he just went there once.
That's right.
So we go to these venues and it's like he did one show there. There's maybe like 7 photos of him there, and that's it.
And you might not even get a lineup.
Yeah. And, the photos are probably taken from the back of the building. So we just go there. We document what we can. I mean, we kind of have an idea of like this is where the car would have pulled in. This was his dressing room. We document all that. And then that's pretty much, all we can get out of there. I mean, we don't want to do too much because then it's like, how is this relating that closely to the show? So to answer the question, we have a lot of these venues where we have photos and videos from our tour, but it's not enough to make a video out of. It would literally just be a 60-second like slideshow basically of pictures, and that's it. So there's a few videos that we have out there where we call them mini videos, where we were kind of able to like, milk the photos and the videos that we had, and we're able to make a mini video. But there's a lot of venues that we've been to where it's not enough to make a video. But yes, to answer your question, we have been to Hartford, but we haven't done a video on that.
And there's some weird ones out there. It's like we went to the hotel. We went in the room where he stayed. Remember the round hotel, the Sheraton in Portland?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he stayed. That I always like telling this story because there was somebody on here a while back that was saying that Elvis always stayed like directly across the street from the venue, or he stayed within like a mile. And that absolutely, we have disproven that how many times. This one was probably the best way to disprove that whole story because it was 52 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he played Augusta, and it's on the tour sheets, they talk about it. And I think, in fact, what I really loved about that is Elvis went up there on the group bus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine that, that right there. That's one of the coolest stories that I've learned about him, is that he didn't always love the fact that he never thought that he was, I'm so big that I can't, I can't talk with you, or I can't sit down with you, or I can't ride the tour bus or whatever. It was a Greyhound. He got on the tour bus with the guys and rode up there because they thought it would be easier for him not to be, seen or whatever. Mm-hmm. But just think of that, 50 miles. Anyway, getting back to the story, when he played Augusta, he stayed in Portland in that round hotel, and we went in the room and everything. And that's the same hotel that in fact, it's in the movie. This is Elvis. When you see them putting that foil up and everything, we were in that room, and we did a video on that. Yeah, Augusta. That's in the Augusta.
That's that's an early video of ours.
Yeah, you can see where it's still because they were bent over, taping it up to the bottom of the window, because the windows went from ceiling to floor. And that was really cool to be there. But I always just thought that was so neat because, like I say, he was coming back to Portland. We went to the building that he was going to the day that he died, but we did not. We made a pact that we would not go there. And people said, "Why didn't you go there?" And well, he didn't go there.
He didn't go. We went to the building, but we didn't go in because he didn't go in.
Yep.
So we saw it from the outside. But yeah, to think about Elvis, in a car for 52 miles, that's a long time for them to be on the road, because if somebody found out that was his car, that'd be a traffic issue.
Sure.
Who's your favorite Elvis photographer, Keith or Ed?
Not to ask us that question.
Yeah, I mean, they're all great. There's no way we could pick a favorite. They're all great. But yeah. Going back to the comment about the Civic Center that we've been to, if you go onto our YouTube page, if you're like new or you're just curious about the cities we've been to, just go to our YouTube page and go to our first video, and then just work your way to now and see all the cities that we've been to, because we've been to quite a few. And there's a handful of videos where it's multiple cities in one video. So if there's videos on our page that you haven't seen, especially like our early videos, check those out, because it'll look different when you click it, because the beginning and all that is different, and it's when we were still Elvis back on tour. But there's a lot of cities and everything that we have posted on our YouTube channel that people don't know that's on there.
Explain to the folks that kind of the Elvis back on tour, how we started and we grew to big account, and then gone.
When we started the account. So for those that you don't know, one, he's sick.
I got the creeping crud, as Elvis would say.
And so when COVID hit in 2020 and everybody was home, nobody could go outside, we were talking, and I remember exactly when it happened. We were in the laundry room and you were getting the laundry out, and I was like, "Hey, maybe a thing that we could start doing is we have all these photos and videos from our trips
Mhm.
that we've done." And I was like, "Why don't we just start sharing it with people?" And so, after a couple days, we started like looking, YouTube channels, social media, like, all that stuff. And so we started our YouTube channel. First thing that we did was our Rapid City video. That was the first video that we did. And then we started Instagram. And then it kind of grew from there. And then we started focusing. We started that, I think, in March. And then our first trip after starting our account was in June. And that was our Texas trip. And so we did that. And then once people started figuring out what we did, the following started, we started getting more followers and everything. And then we got up to about 30,000 followers on Instagram.
Mhm.
And then last year, it's almost, I think it happened on maybe in like a week, will be a year since this has happened. But it was in June of last year. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was sleeping, and mom walks in, and you had called because you had gone onto our Instagram, and
It's like 5 o'clock in the morning.
you had gone on Instagram and it said, account deactivated. And because I'm the tech guy, he called and had me wake up, and I went on and I'm trying to find like what I can do and everything. And the way that Instagram and Facebook, because they're both connected, is they're both under Meta, and you can ask anybody that's had a Facebook or Instagram account hacked or disabled or anything. There's nobody to contact. There's no email, phone number, no customer service whatsoever, unless you pay for a subscription
Sure,
for
always.
their service. But we didn't have that at the time. So trying to fix it, and there was nothing that we could do. And eventually we got the permanently deactivated notification. So Elvis, like, our page was gone. Like, we had 2,000 posts on there, gone, 30,000 followers, gone, just
Gone.
and we couldn't do anything about it.
Yep.
And so we had to basically start over from scratch. Luckily, our YouTube channel wasn't touched. And then our Facebook, we actually had the same thing happen to our Facebook like a year or two earlier. So we had already started a new Facebook page. And what we found out was it was actually really crazy, because for that week, there was other Elvis accounts that were getting affected. They were just
Mhm.
dropping left and right. And so I went on, and on my personal account, Travis from Daily Elvis Posts, Aitor, Mary, Sophia, Nadia, I texted all of them on my personal Instagram and was like, "Hey, I think what's happening is all these Elvis accounts are getting deactivated because we have Elvis's face as our profile picture." And Instagram thought that because Elvis was in our handle and the name of our account, and we had a picture of Elvis as our profile picture, Instagram thought that we were imitating Elvis, which is against their guidelines. So I went on and messaged them. I was like, "Hey, because we didn't have an account and people were wondering where we were." So they went onto their accounts and was like, "Hey, this is what has happened." And I said, "You guys probably want to change your names
Right.
and change your profile pictures." And so within the next couple of days, everybody was changing that. And so we ended up just starting over on Instagram, and we were like, we're going to not have that issue. So we became EP back on tour. And then we changed our Facebook, which had already been growing over the last 2 years. And then, and then we just changed our YouTube. We just kind of rebranded everything.
Well, somebody's just saying right there, I can't see the name, but it said they used to follow us on Facebook, and we disappeared, and lucky we're still on YouTube. We're still on Facebook, right?
Yeah. So like I said, it was kind of weird because it was like 2 or 3 years ago, we lost our Facebook to the same thing. So I had started another Facebook, and it was EP back on tour on Facebook. And then it was still Elvis back on tour on Instagram. So then when we lost Instagram, I said, instead of having Facebook and Instagram as EP and then our YouTube is Elvis back on tour, I said, we're just going to change everything.
Right.
So we rebranded, we came up with our logo. That's if you go on to like our YouTube icon, it's the Elvis's eagle. I actually designed our logo, so it's the 74 jumpsuit eagle design. That way, we don't have any copyright or anything because it's not Elvis's likeness or anything. So yeah, then we just kind of rebranded. That happened in June. We worked our tail off trying to rebrand as much as we could and build up a following for August. And then, we were letting people know in August, like, hey, this is what happened. And there's people that came up to us and like, I didn't know, like, we met these people that had followed us and they're like, I had no idea what happened to you guys. And we kind of like informed them, hey, we have a new account. So there was a lot of people, and there's probably still people out there now that don't know that we're back on the scene.
You can find us EP Back on Tour on YouTube, EP Back on Tour on Facebook.
And Instagram.
So
yeah, everything is EP Back on Tour.
We're still out there.
So we got a new logo and, nothing of Elvis's likeness on our accounts, like in the name or anything and all that. So we're safe in that regard. So yeah, we're coming up on the 1 year since that's happened. Every day we're still trying to, grow our following, and it's hard with, the scheduling that we're in now because a year, last year and before, I was, home pretty much every day. So I could just sit on the computer for hours,
Right.
just, posting videos, all that kind of stuff. And now it's really hard to do. So we have to kind of just stick with doing Instagram. So you're back on Facebook. Yeah. So Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube is all EP Back on Tour. It's all connected. So you can follow us on those three accounts. So,
and I'll tell you, I will say this once again. I've said it many, many times. I always knew how great the Elvis community was, but I'm going to tell you, if we didn't learn anything, well, we learned a couple things about that. We learned that we get back up, which we've always done, to get back up and keep on going. So we just did that again. But seeing how the Elvis community, the people that are, our friends that we know really, really well, they worked hard for us too. They were out there, going, hey, these guys are still out there, and this is where you find them and everything. So we owe a great debt of, appreciation to those folks that helped us out during that time.
Yeah, 100%. And it was a very hectic couple of weeks when that was all going on because we were texting people. We were just, Keith was on his Facebook posting about it.
Yep.
I mean, it was really disappointing because we lost any of the live streams that we had done on our Instagram. So like we had done one with, I forget the gentleman's name, but he was a part of the Elvis on Tour 3 book set. We did a live with him, and we had done a bunch of ones with other Elvis content creators that were just gone and we couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, that had happened about a year ago. So we've been, fighting our way back, trying to post some stuff since then. But yeah, EP Back on Tour, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
I'm glad you brought that up about the book set, because we've got some more book reviews coming up. We're not big book review folks, but some people have asked us to do a couple, and we want to do them because there's just some great stuff out there. And just for those of you that haven't are new to our channel and everything, we're pretty technical about what we do, where there's not a lot of fluff with us. You're never going to see us doing like a photo shoot. We're not part of any of the, we don't put ourselves in the post other than explaining the facts and explaining Elvis. So there's not a lot of fluff, and there's not a lot of, smoke and lights and stuff like that. We just bring you the stuff. We bring you we study the tour sheets. We study any documentation we have. We have a lot of documentation on, the tours and, rooms these guys stayed in and stuff like that. And, routes that they took and so forth. But, that's kind of what we do. And we don't get out there too far on the sidelines and get real crazy. We just, bring you the hardcore stuff, and that's what we'll continue to do. So glad you like it.
Yeah. For For the Macon, Georgia, June 1st, if you want to elaborate on your question regarding what you're talking about, I can talk about that. And then Paul Sweeney joined. Paul, thanks for joining.
Hey, Paul.
And talking about losing accounts. Paul, if you want to let us know how everything's going with the Candid Central and the form and everything. I saw that on Facebook and everything, and because I have those on my computer, I have those bookmarked and saved. Right when I open Google, they're right there, and I check those almost on a daily. And it was a blow when I saw what had happened to that. So I'm just wondering if there's any luck on that front.
Yeah, talk about an effort that Paul Sweeney and his folks put into that. You talk about a wonderful.
I mean, that is a Elvis Lifeline website.
I mean, just to go and see photos that were, the shots that a lot of people haven't seen.
Yeah, I mean, we also lost. I don't know if it's elvisinconcerts.com or elvisconcerts.com, but it's the database for his shows. We almost lost that a couple years ago, but because the gentleman that ran it was kind of like running out of funding to run the website, and we had a kind of like a fundraiser on our page, and he was able to save it. So we're very appreciative of him and his team for running that website.
There's a question there. Somebody's asking, how come when Elvis played Macon, Georgia on June 1st, 77, there were no stairs when he left the stage? I'm pretty sure what you're referring to is a photo of him jumping off the loading dock.
That's why I'm
Macon Hilton.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's talking about if the photo of him in the sundial where he's jumping off the loading dock.
Dick Road.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking for you to specify if that's what you're talking about. It was shot to lose not only my site but many others. So, Paul, are you saying that it's like gone, or you're all still in the works of trying to get it back? Because I just saw that it was hacked, so I don't know what the details were on that. I don't know if you want to get into that, but I was wondering, if it's still possible to get that back, because that would be
yeah, that would be horrible.
Seems as though it's when he jumped off the loading dock. Yeah. So that's the picture of when he was heading to the show. They went through there's actual footage of this happening, I'm pretty sure. No, I don't know.
Well, there's the story was there's a girl in the dumpster, and they were heading out to go down the stairs to get in the car. And we actually asked Dick Robe about this, and he said that they heard a pop, and they said that they had trained Elvis that if you hear anything like that, like if shots being fired, you've got one job, and that's to get to the car. And basically what happened was the girl came out of the dumpster, took the shot with the old, Instamatic camera, had the flash cube on top, and it exploded. And they thought it was a shot. And Elvis just jumped off the loading dock straight into the car. And then they said that they started to pull out, and they said that Elvis had him stop and go back, and he was on his way to the show. And this here again shows you what kind of guy he is. He's on his way to a show, but he goes back and gets out of the car and has pictures made with this girl and gives her the scarf that he had around his neck. So I thought,
Yeah, and the photo that you're talking about was taken by Keith Alverson. And if you look, I think there was a couple photos taken from that whole. I don't know if it was just one or if there was a couple, but if you look in the dumpster in the background, you can see the girl. With the camera.
Yeah, there's. Yep.
I don't know if when that photo was taken, if it was before or after the light went off.
Right.
But if you just pull up that sequence of photos or photo, you can look in the background. You'll see the dumpster, and you'll see her back there. And Keith has told us that story a bunch, and that's where we got that story.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So Paul, hopefully all works out. If there's anything that we can do, please let us know. I know in that situation, there's not a ton that we could do, but if there's anything that we can try and help with, please let us know. We'd love to help if we can. The photo of him in the loading dock is on the website. Elvis got
and that Hilton is gone now. We've been there, documented that when we did Macon.
That hotel is gone. Yeah. I think it was New Year's Day. I think I saw.
That's right.
We did an interview, which is on our YouTube channel, with a gentleman, Ed Williams. He went to a bunch of the Macon shows, 72, 75, and 77. I don't know if he went there in 76. He might have.
I'm not sure.
But he went to a bunch of the Macon shows, and he messaged us and was saying that hotel, because when we went to Macon, we got outside footage, but that was all taken like down, like kind of at the base of the hotel. It was gated off because they were trying to renovate it, but it was gated off, and it was like down in the parking garage, and we couldn't see it from the street.
It was eerie too, man.
Yeah.
That place was.
Yeah. So we weren't able to get that, but they have since, as of New Year's Day, it was demolished. And since then too, Mobile Civic Center has also been turned into a lot. We're grateful that we got there when we did, and we're able to get there with George Hill and do that. So that was a shock to everybody, but
yeah, especially when we got there and the guy says, "Oh yeah, we're going to renovate this," and not a knock on the guy, because he's just telling us what, and then right after we left, I called back and I said, "Any truth to the story?" That he said, "Yeah, right after you left, maybe a month or so after you guys left out of here, they came in and said, 'You guys find another job. This place is going to be a pile of dust here in a little bit.'"
And the city sold everything that wasn't bolted down inside that building. And it was on like one of those government, sale websites. And one of the listings was like 100 of those gold seats that were from when Elvis was there. And the listing actually said gold seats that Elvis may have sat in. And that was the listing. I forget how much they sold for, but there was a bunch of stuff that sold. And but we got our piece of the building.
Just like this chair that we have from the dressing room.
Gold seat that we're talking about, we have over there. So we got our piece of history. And then we have the the video, the videos that we took when we were down there with George and our tours down there. So we have that now locked in, and we'll have that forever. And, as a memory for people that worked there, and the history and all that stuff. So we're glad that we got there when we did.
I don't think they've torn down the Mid-South Coliseum.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that they've torn that down. I've actually, honestly, unless they haven't, we don't know about it. I don't think I've ever seen a battle for a Coliseum more than the Mid-South, because the city of Memphis has been wanting to tear that building down. Well, they actually don't know what to do with the building.
They wanted to tear that building down like a week after it was built.
And people have been fighting for that building to stay up, and it's just sat vacant. And I've never seen a push more from people in Memphis for them to keep that building and renovate it. I mean, there's social media platforms, websites, news organizations that are like, turn this into something. So
yeah, as far as I know, we stay up on these buildings because these buildings, believe it or not, they mean a lot to. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's just it's a long story that we won't get into. But these buildings mean a lot to us. So when they go, it makes us sad, because it's a part of history that is gone, and you won't be able to see it again. It's like like the Capitol Center and a lot of these other places. But no, I don't think unless, I'm not going to say we know everything, but
because they tear these things down in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah,
without saying.
But I don't think the Mid-South. I'm pretty certain it's still there.
To answer your question, yes, the picture of Elvis wearing the blue swirl. This was taken by George Hill, Bloomington, Indiana, in June of 1974. So that's the photo that's back here. I think we say this every time, but I think one video that we can do is try to do like a tour of our studio, because since we've moved into the studio, this is the corner that everybody's ever seen. So we'll see if we follow through with that.
Well, that's on you, because you're the tech guy.
I've been wanting to do it for a while, but you want to break it up into pieces, the videos, not the collection.
Do you know how long that would take to show them all this stuff?
I mean, if you guys want to, have a video where you can, sit down with a bag of popcorn and watch a 2-hour video of our studio, then let us know and we'll do it. Because we can talk for a while. It's funny how when we were talking about the Mid-South, my head went back to 2 Elvis weeks ago. We were at the Travelodge, and it was the first time that we had met George. And we were like, hey, do you want to go to the Mid-South? Because he had gone to some of those shows and just, share your stories outside the building. He was like, yeah, sure. So we drove him over there, did the interview outside the building, get back after Elvis week. I plug the footage in. You can't hear anything.
Right.
Because the microphones the little lapel microphones that we had been using didn't work.
Right.
And so all you hear is like cicadas in the background and you couldn't hear anything. And so we're like, oh, that's, the terrible and all that stuff. And so we were thinking like, how are we going to make this right? Because we didn't want that to be like George's first impression of us with that stuff. So we called him and we're like, hey, would you be willing to, go like meet us somewhere? We'll fly and we'll do a video there. And he's like, well, I think the closest place to me is Mobile. So we flew down to Mobile, did that. And then that turned into Keith like, hey, if you want to meet, we'll do it. So then we go down to Huntsville. We actually were like, all right, we'll do Huntsville with Keith, Marsha, and Bruce. And so we'll fly into Birmingham.
So we added Birmingham.
They met us in Birmingham. We did Birmingham and then drove down to Huntsville. George tagged along. We did Huntsville again. And then Benny Jacks was like, hey, there's more people that want to be interviewed. So then we went back to Huntsville. And within that, when we were in Birmingham, we got a seat from Birmingham. Mm-hmm. And then we also, when we were in Mobile with George the first time, we got the seat from.
All because of a technical failure.
That I look back and I'm like, how that all happened because of a microphone failure. Right. And all the people that we've met and developed a relationship with.
Right.
And it's crazy how, like, when we went back to Huntsville with George, Keith, and all them, we were on the news and they did a news story with them. And I just think that's funny how that all kind of played just because those little microphones stopped working. But I bought the best microphones that money can buy now. So that'll never become an issue again. So, but it's funny how that worked. Thank you for watching our videos. We really appreciate it. So we'll probably start wrapping up this live stream. We try to keep it at about an hour. So if you guys have any final questions, drop them in the comments. And then if you are just joining, we will be posting this full live stream on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it there. If you go onto our YouTube channel and you go to videos and then you click the live tab at the top, it'll show all the live stream videos that we've done, and you can watch them if you want to go back and look. This will be episode 14. So you can either go onto our channel, or after the fact, you can type in EP Back on Tour Elvis Diner episode 14 and it'll pop up. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to drop it in there. Moving forward, we're going to try to drop a few more videos out there. I got about a month left of my training. So then once that's done, we should have a little bit more free time, because at the end of June, I'm done with the training, but then I have to go back for some additional training. Mm-hmm. But I should have a little bit more time for us to do stuff. But we're going to try to do some more videos. We'll definitely do a live stream here and there. And then once kind of end of the month rolls around, we're going to see if like our Elvis week schedule, we're hoping that we can make it down there, but we're not sure yet just because of scheduling, but we're really hoping that we can. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to try to stay up on Instagram, and then we'll, again, like I said, we're going to try to post what we can on YouTube and all that. So if you guys have any questions after, you can contact us, private message us on Instagram or Facebook, or you can email us at epbackontour@gmail.com. And if you go into any of our social media accounts, if you go to our biography on our homepage, there's a link there. It's a bio link is what it'll say. If you click that, that'll take you to a link that'll show you all of our social media accounts. And if you click the little envelope, that'll set you up to send us an email. If you actually send us an email at epbackontour@gmail.com, that's probably the fastest way that we can get back to you. Sometimes, we've told people this before, they'll message us on Instagram or Facebook. Sometimes those accounts are like Facebook or Instagram will by default like hide the messages, so we won't see them all the time. So that's kind of out of our control. But if you email us, that's probably the best way to do that.
We appreciate you guys coming out on a Sunday night and spending time with us. We love doing these things. We love seeing you guys, and we love just talking Elvis. And we're gonna keep at it, and you guys keep following us, and let your friends know so they can follow along as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing about the merchandise, we're looking at that kind of once we get back on the road, maybe around before Elvis Week, we're going to see. We have a contact out in California, a good friend of ours that might be able to help us with that. So once we get back on the road, we'll let you guys know about that. And then we have been to Champaign. Once again, not enough content to make a video out of, but we have been there. And yeah, so we appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully you enjoyed. And again, this will be posted in its entirety on our YouTube channel. It'll be episode 14. And follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, EP Back on Tour. And you guys have a good rest of your night.
Thank you, guys.